All right. Okay, there we go. We're recording. Thank you for coming to Webinar Wednesday. We're really excited to have Safe Kids Grand Forks here with us today. ND Bin, doesn't always dive into the realm of prevention of brain injury, but when we get to collaborate with Safe Kids, that's our main time that we get to focus on prevention. So it's very fun for us and a great time. And the Safe Kids Grand Forks office is a phenomenal bunch of women that do a really amazing job. So very excited to share for them to share what they do with you guys. So I'm going to let Tina Sanders with Safe Kids take it away.
Great. Thank you, Carly, and thank you for having us today. So I am Tina, and I work for Safe Kids. I'm a Safe Kids specialist. My main area of focus for Safe Kids is pedestrian and wheeled sports safety. I also do a lot of home safety topics. So all of us here are kind of jacks of all trades, as it were. We do cover a lot of different topics and focus areas. We're all car seat technicians as well. But being as passionate as I am about safety of kids that are walking, biking, and rolling, I was just really, really excited anytime I get to kind of collaborate with Carly, but especially when she invited us here. So thank you for having me today. All right. So Safe Kids has a message of keeping kids safe at home, at school, at play, and on the way. We work on helping to keep kids safe from preventable injuries. There's all sorts of injuries that happen to folks that are more intentional, and there's very, very smart people that work on those topics. That's not really where we focus. We are focusing on preventable injuries. So obviously, I get to talk about protecting kids' heads by using helmets. Like I said, we have a lot of focus areas that we work under. These are just a very small list of the topics that we cover throughout the year, with a lot of our presentations to schools, to community groups, booths at different events and things like that. So we do cover a wide variety of things. We are always open to joining in with different new partners and covering things that need addressing in our community. So this is just a few of the things that we do. And we have a huge coverage area. If you see on this map, we're the purple section. So we really get to visit communities all over the place. But we are not the only ones, obviously, in North Dakota and Minnesota that are doing this work. We have a lot of friends out in Bismarck, Mandan. There's a Safe Kids out there. Our friends in Fargo, Moorhead, Safe Kids Minot. And then there's Safe Kids throughout Minnesota as well. So we're not here by ourselves. We do partner with all of these folks, and occasionally from time to time, if there's something that we're presenting that some of our partners aren't, we will visit them and vice versa. So we really do have a huge, huge range that we kind of cover. And then I'd be remiss to not mention the fact that Safe Kids is international. So we have a huge focus in the US, but we are worldwide as well. So we really get to share a lot of different topics to a lot of different kids. And if you like what I say today, I would hope that you consider joining our coalition. We meet monthly, and we also have a variety of subcommittees as well. So if the full coalition is not something that you're interested in, but you have one of these focus areas that you're like, that child passenger safety, that's something I'm really passionate about, or whatever have you, please give me a call or email me and join our coalition. So jumping into our topic today. And this is kind of silly, but do you want to build a bike safety program? I really wanted to offer an opportunity to share what we do, and also to offer to our various communities the opportunity to build a program themselves. Obviously, we have a huge covered area, like I said, but there's only 4 of us here in the office. And while everybody here in our office, as well as a lot of our local partners, do a lot of this work throughout our region, there's still some small communities that unfortunately we don't get to share this information with. It's really, really difficult, especially when we're talking about wheeled sports and being kind of hemmed in by our weather to try to get that information out there while we have no snow flying outside. It takes um, a very big team, and I'm hoping to build that team so that we can really get that information out there. Carly's been wonderful for that. She's been out there with us doing some of our safety on wheels. I'll talk about that one. It's one of my favorites. And really partnering with us to do that. So be like Carly and help us out with that stuff. Um, but Safe Kids Grand Forks has a long, long history of wheeled sports safety. We have a massive team of wonderful partners, and I'm going to highlight a lot of those. Um, so as we keep going here. So the first thing that I always sort of encourage if somebody is looking to do some new programming is some data collection. We do data collection regularly here. It's key to kind of understand not only whether or not we are having an impact with the actions that we're doing, but making sure that we're addressing the things that need to be addressed. So with regard to pedestrian and wheeled sports, the main things that we want to know is, first of all, how are kids getting to school and who's wearing helmets? Those two questions we survey every other year on opposing years so that we can just kind of keep tabs on whether or not our actions are being effective and whether or not we need to step it up in different areas. So when we're talking about how kids get to school, we're mainly asking whether they bus, whether they get there by a passenger car, if they're biking, rolling of some sort, or if they're walking. And so, like I said, every other year in the fall, we survey the schools by sending out this very simple survey. What we ask is that the teachers survey their classroom on 2 consecutive mornings, asking the students how they got to school that morning. We administer this in the early part of the year so that we're fairly certain that the weather is going to be pretty stable, so that if students are inclined to walk or bike to school, they would not have any barriers to do so. Those tally sheets then come back to us and we process them to see, which schools have a huge walk population, how many of them are, utilizing drop-offs, personal vehicles a lot more. And then we know a little bit how to concentrate our efforts. This is, like I said, a super simple survey. So if you were going to start a program, this would be a really easy one to facilitate. Along with that, we partnered with our MPO, and we have created these safe routes to school maps. These are maps. They're each of our school districts in Grand Forks and East Grand Forks. Grand Forks has 11 elementary schools, so we have quite a few of them. The maps highlight which of our streets have sidewalks on them. It highlights any lighted crossing, crosswalks, school sign beacons, and that sort of thing. And then you see that large circle on the screen. That orange circle is going to highlight the half-mile radius around that school. That's important information to have because that's kind of the radius that's determined that is a walkable distance for elementary kids to get to school. Unfortunately, our amount of walking, biking kids is pretty small, even though we have, like I said, these 11 neighborhood schools. So we really do have a lot of really walkable neighborhoods around our schools. But for various reasons, whether it's perception of safety or convenience or whatever it is, a lot of the parents opt to drive their children to school. The other survey that I told you about is a helmet observation survey. This one, again, is point in time. So we do this every other year, and we do it in kind of 2 phases. We have our staff and volunteers show up at the beginning of the school day at our school campuses, and they just mark down how many children are arriving using a bike, rollerblades, skateboard, scooters, that sort of thing. And then they note how many of them are wearing a helmet and if they're wearing those helmets correctly, which obviously means that we need to do a little bit of pre-training with those volunteers to make sure that they know what a correctly worn helmet looks like. We also roll this survey out in our community, and that's actually the form that you see on the screen here. We have volunteers kind of station themselves in various areas, either along the Greenway here in Grand Forks and East Grand Forks, over on the university campus, and in different areas of town, as well as kind of taking a running total as they travel around town to note, again, whether people are traveling on wheels and if they're wearing a helmet. While these numbers, since Safe Kids has been doing wheeled sports activities, have grown, it's still pretty low. So that's still something that we are actively striving to improve. So with that data in mind, if you're developing a program, we really want to kind of come up with what our goals are to accomplish. So do we want to see more active transport? Do we want to increase helmet skill use? Are we even looking to teach ridership skills for the kids? So some of our main programming, our Safety on Wheels program is presented at the 3rd grade level. It is really important to make sure that we've kind of done these observations so that we know which schools are seeing some good results with helmet use and which ones maybe are not seeing very good results at all. And then we know kind of that maybe we need to step up the advertising a little bit and that sort of thing. So let me kind of highlight some of our programming. Now, when I visit schools, I talk a lot about bicycle and wheeled sports crash dynamics. Very first of all, I introduce the fact that toddlers need a special kind of helmet because toddlers, the majority of their body currently is made up of their head. Like their head is a disproportionately large percentage of their body. What I say to the kids is they're kind of built like little lollipops. They got giant heads and little tiny bodies. So they fall down a lot and they tend to fall backward. And we usually have them riding things like tricycles. Tricycles are a little bit tippy and they tend to tip backward. So we give them a lot of protection to the back of their head. We also talk about when kids ride bicycles, they're more likely to fall forward or to the side. But if they're riding on skateboards, scooters, inline skates, anything like that, they're more likely to tip backward. The very first question I ask the kids when I start my presentation is, how many of them ride bikes, scooters, skateboards, inline skates, anything like that? And I have them raise their hands. And then I ask them to keep their hands up if every single time they're on those kinds of wheels, they always wear a helmet. And the majority of the hands usually go down. And so I ask them, why do people choose not to wear a helmet? I get a lot of answers to this. It ranges from they're uncomfortable, they're not cool. I hear they're not cool a lot. It'll mess up my hair. I hear a lot of times I don't have one, or the one that I have doesn't fit me anymore. Frequently I hear because I'm really, really good at riding bikes and I don't need one because I don't fall down. I had one child actually tell me that he doesn't wear a helmet because if he did, he would look like a coward. So these are all reasons that are very deeply seated in them. I don't challenge those points at that moment. I'm not going to dispute them and argue in this conversation. I want them to be able to feel free to share those reasons with me. But of course, that's going to adjust my presentation as we go along so that I can address some of those concerns. And we present to 3rd graders. These really, really are concerns to them, and I don't want to minimize their feelings when it comes to that. We ask them, what does your brain do for you? And they share all sorts of things that their brains are capable of. I let them know that our brains are truly remarkable. We usually have a sketch of a brain, just like the one on the screen, and we talk about what the different parts of the brain do. Um, I highlight the fact that all of these parts of our brain inside of our skull um, are at risk if we're on wheels, if we're doing wheeled sports. And I ask them if all of these parts of our brain are worth protecting. And without a doubt, obviously, they feel like all of those parts are worth protecting. And then, of course, we talk about the different types of helmets out there. I demonstrate each of the 3 different types of helmets that I bring with me: a toddler helmet, a bicycle helmet, and a multi-sport helmet. I explain the shapes of those and really kind of highlight for them why they would use one over another. Basically, I let them know that if you've got wheels on your feet or your bottom, you need to have a helmet on your head. Um, that's very, very important. I also strongly highlight the fact that all of the helmets that I bring with me are not to be used for motorized sports. We highlight that they can't be used for ATVs, they can't be used for dirt bikes, anything like that. I explain the DOT approved helmets and the fact that because an ATV or a any motorized bike like that can go upwards of 70 miles an hour, just like my car. They really need that extra strong protection because unlike a car, they don't have a roof and walls, seat belts, airbags, and all of that great stuff that keeps our brains safe. We also really highlight the fact that a multi-sport helmet offers the protection that they need when they are inline skating, when they're using scooters, when they're skateboarding. Um, I note that, okay, if, you only own a bike helmet and you borrow your friend's skateboard, you can go ahead and wear that helmet if you're doing it once or once in a while. But if you're going to skateboard all the time, if you're going to use a scooter all the time, you really need to get that other kind of helmet. In my opinion, the most important thing that I get to do with them is to show them how that helmet is supposed to fit them. I see lots and lots of kids out there wearing helmets that are perfect for the activity that they're doing, but unfortunately, they don't fit them correctly. They're too big, they're too small, they're wearing them incorrectly in one manner or another, or they're just not adjusted right. Like they would be the correct helmet if it was adjusted correctly. So we do the 2-finger test and we have them note that no more than 2 fingers should fit between their eyebrow and the bottom of their helmet, that their fingers should, or that the strap of their helmet should fit like a V right underneath their earlobe, and that no more than 2 fingers should fit between their chin and their chin strap. And then I go ahead and I actually try that helmet on for them. And I show them that the helmet that I bring fits me really well. I also point out that, hey, is it going to mess up my hair put on this helmet? Absolutely it is. But can I fix my hair later? Sure, you bet I can. I mentioned that sometimes people might not think that a helmet looks cool. But I think it's really cool to protect my brain. I want to make sure that I have all of my memories. I want to make sure that I don't, get a bad injury and have to go to the hospital. I think it's way cooler to be safe. This is a time where I also might mention why, even though you're really, really good at biking or skateboarding, that you should still wear a helmet. And I usually like to mention Olympic athletes because those Olympic athletes, we can agree, are the best of the best in the entire world at the sport that they do. But they always wear a helmet when they compete because they know that it's important to protect their brain. So, even though you're really, really good, you still need to protect your brain. The other thing that I highlight is sometimes helmets do have an expiration date. The ones that we purchase for our program don't expire, but we also highlight the reasons why you would have to replace a helmet. First of all, if it takes a hard hit on the ground, if they fall and they hit their head. It's sometimes really hard to see any damage to a helmet that's taken a hit like that. It's important to go ahead and replace that helmet. If it no longer fits, first of all, if that helmet's too small, it's going to be uncomfortable and the kids are not going to want to wear it. So if it's gotten too small, it's not an appropriate helmet. It's not going to cover their head the way it needs to. Obviously, if it's expired and if they've lost any parts to it. Now, one thing that I see sometimes with helmets is in the wintertime, they'll get stored in the garage. And oftentimes those temperature fluctuations over time can start to cause problems with the helmet. We actually had some here in our offices that the adhesive just gave way because of the temperature fluctuations the helmets went through. So I'll point that out to the kids as well. Little tiny guys, you know, like I said, we're car seat technicians as well. So sometimes if I see an opportunity when we're doing a car seat check to talk to families about helmet safety, I absolutely will. Because oftentimes if they're putting their child like in a burly trailer, like the one on the screen, they don't realize that those kids need a helmet. They think because they're not pedaling themselves, then clearly, they must be fine. But we actually strongly encourage the kids in those trailers to wear helmets. Because those trailers are low to the ground, it makes them really less visible to cars. The one thing that I strongly recommend is that if their child is under the age of 1, they need to really consider the fact that that helmet is going to add some weight to their head and potentially make it so that they're going to put themselves in a bad, risky position for their breathing. Their necks just aren't strong enough and we're adding extra weight. So we don't really recommend that if you're going to have a burly trailer that your infant is riding in that. We also encourage that families put tall flags on the backs of those if they're going to use them so that they are more visible to cars. But as children start getting more interest in different kinds of wheeled sports, or if we're taking them in a child seat on the back of a bike, we still need to keep in mind helmet safety. And I think sometimes we forget that even though these are low to the ground and seem like super safe activities to us, these are little kids that already are prone to falling down. And we're putting them on wheels. And especially if we're riding a bike with a child in a baby seat behind us, if we get into a crash, not only are we going at higher speeds than a child could achieve on their own, if we fall down, the weight of that adult and the weight of that adult bike could potentially be falling on that kiddo too. So they need to wear helmets for that. Anything that's motorized or battery operated, we typically don't recommend because these are small kids that may not have really good control over those vehicles. So crashes are pretty likely. Now at my house, our policy is no helmet, no bike. And I feel like safety with helmets really does need to start early, and it just needs to be a culture in a household. So making sure that the adults in their lives are wearing helmets too is really, really important. And I think that that's one of the big challenges that we see in with Safe Kids. And when I do these presentations is the kids are often telling me, well, my dad doesn't wear a helmet because he's a grown up. And I always ask, do grown-ups have brains? If grown-ups have brains, then they need to protect their brains. So that's something that I really want to see encouraged. All right, so that's the background stuff that we cover. These are some of the strategies that we use or have used in order to educate, in order to encourage, and in order to expand these safety topics throughout our region. So very first of all is our Safety Around Schools program. Safety on Wheels, which I've mentioned. We do bike rodeos. We have a program that's really cool called Taking It to the Streets. There's also a curriculum called Walk Bike Fun and some programming through Safe Routes to School. So let me kind of jump into those and share those with you guys. So Safety Around Schools is a super cool program that highlights the 4 main ways that kids get to school: on bike, as pedestrians, in the bus, and in cars. And it's for the entire student body. We work with K through 5 schools typically. And it's 8 to 12-minute rotations featuring all 4 of those topics. The students are split into those 4 groups and they rotate through those stations. So it takes obviously a lot of support from the school. We need volunteers in order to make this happen, but our volunteers get scripts to use. We do orientation. for those volunteers, either via a Zoom meeting or that morning prior to our student presentations. But it's really amazing because our volunteers are able to add their own knowledge and expertise. It was really cool. I did one in Thief River Falls, Minnesota this past year, and Bike Thief River Falls members came out to assist us with the bike station. So they were able to share some of the very specific challenges that bicyclists see in Thief River Falls. Well, I don't live in Thief River Falls, so they were able to share some things that there's no way that I would have been able to do. And that's what is so special about having local people in these communities share these topics, is because you know your community and you know exactly what kinds of things would be beneficial for these kids to learn about walking and biking in your community. Now, active transport safety topics are newly required in the curriculum in our Minnesota schools. So unfortunately, we didn't get to do any safety around schools in our North Dakota schools because we were so busy trying to make sure that our friends in Minnesota were getting that mandate met. So coming up for next year, because we do this in the very beginning of the school year as the kids are kind of getting into the rhythm of school, we really, really need more partners and more support to make sure that we're able to get this out to more schools. Because like I said, we didn't get to do any in North Dakota this year. So this is the timeline. Ideally, we would put our schedule together in May. That hasn't happened yet. Usually I'm scrambling in the middle to the end of August, putting together schedules and getting everybody on the calendar to do this. But ideally, we would have our schedule in place in May before school ends to set a date and kind of go over what we're going to need. In August, then we can focus on the task of recruiting volunteers and training them and getting like a bus at the school and that sort of thing. So then by September, we're doing those Zoom trainings. We're getting the word out to the parents that we're going to do this. We're even posting some tips on social media if the school has that opportunity. And then, of course, we have the week of and the day of timeline set there as well. What is kind of cool is that if somebody wants to take on this project for their community with some training, it's kind of just in 4 boxes. And we're able to have our partner come and pick up those boxes. It's got the scripts inside of each box for each station, and they're able to really just go for it. So I'm going to say the term program in a box, because that's really my goal for all of these things, so that our partners can just kind of pick it up from us with some training and go for it. Safety on Wheels is already available, or Safety Around Schools is already available as a program in a box. And you see these kids, you know, they're taking a walk across the actual crosswalk near their school. So they're getting real time. This is what it's like to cross the street by our school. And it's just, it's such a fantastic opportunity to touch base with every single student on that campus and make sure that everybody's on the same page as far as what is the safe way to get to their specific school. Some schools have different policies. Some of our schools say, yes, you can ride your bike to school, but only starting in 3rd grade. Some of them say, yes, you can ride your bike to school, and here's the bike racks, but you have to walk your bike on school campus. The schools are going to know those rules better than I'm going to. So it's really, really great when they're able to take so much ownership of it. Our Safety on Wheels program, like I said, this is something that highlights safety with regard to helmets. We do this at the 3rd grade level in Grand Forks. And Safety on Wheels is one of the original programs actually offered by Safe Kids Grand Forks. It's been a staple in our schools for more than 30 years. Grand Forks Public Schools recommends that children don't bike to school until they reach the 3rd grade. That's why we chose that level. Originally, they were doing this program in the spring of 2nd grade, so that by the time the first day of school for 3rd grade rolls around, they'd be ready to go. They found, however, that the 2nd graders weren't really mature enough and ready enough for that conversation to happen. So for the Grand Forks schools, we do that in the fall, as near to the beginning of the school year as possible. What is really amazing, though, about this program is that not only are they getting this classroom education, they have the opportunity to purchase helmets from us. So we bring bike helmets, we send out pre-order flyers to all the parents, so they're able to purchase a discounted helmet from us. I will say we also have some helmets set aside that are sponsored by some of our partners. If there's a child on campus that needs a helmet and the school knows that they can't afford one, we're going to get that kid into a helmet. We do that 30-minute classroom presentation, and then they get a booklet. That booklet prepares them for some of the education that they're going to get at a bike rodeo. Now, I don't do the bike rodeos for our Grand Forks schools. We actually have our partners with the Optimist Club, and they come out and do those bike rodeos. And then, of course, we do the helmet fitting. If the children purchased a helmet, we will get it fitted to them correctly. If the children bring their own helmet that they already have, we'll check it for fit. We'll make sure that we get it adjusted correctly for them. Or we'll let them know, hey, you need to let mom and dad know that this helmet doesn't fit you any longer. Like I said, we are asking them, what does your brain do for you? We want them to kind of keep that in their forethoughts that what this helmet is doing specifically is protecting their brain. We understand that kids sometimes have a perception, especially if they've got older siblings, that helmets aren't cool. But we highlight throughout that entire presentation that this is to protect their brain. So like I said, we send out pre-order forms for those helmets. The families can choose a bike helmet or a multi-sport helmet. We offer one or the other. Our staff then measures their head and we perform a fit for them. We purchase our helmets through Helmets R Us, that's online. And we sell them for $12 for bike helmets, $16 for multi-sport helmets. That just covers our cost and the shipping. For simplicity, we offer them only in a very few colors. We also occasionally get grants through the Bell Helmet Company, and they provide us not with money, but they actually will send us helmets. Our Bell helmets are usually a lot cooler looking though. So we don't bring our Bell helmets to our school presentations because it would make ordering just a nightmare. But if a community wanted to do a program like this, they could easily apply for support from Bell or from any of these other opportunities out there and offer the helmets for free. Obviously, our Bell helmets, we are obligated to give those out or give the equal amount out to kids that need them. So that's an opportunity for communities if you want to start seeing more helmets around to kind of look for that kind of support. Like I said, our friends with the Optimist Club performs the bike rodeos in our Grand Forks area schools. So they do East Grand Forks as well in the spring and some of our private schools in the spring as well. This is one of our longest running partnerships. And actually, Safety on Wheels is a program developed by Optimist. We kind of run with that one and they just do the rodeo part now. They're all volunteers and what a cool group they are. They're really able to get out there. They're passionate about this. So they bring all the supplies out to the school. They set up their bike rodeo and they do that education. Now, we were really fortunate. We got a Safe Routes to School Boost grant in the spring of 2023. We were able to buy a small trailer and a small bike fleet. With that, we have been able to do some bike rodeos in schools that are a little further out that our Optimist friends aren't able to reach. That is part of what I will soon be offering as program in a box for our community partners. So if you've got a small community that needs to learn some bike education, we can actually set it up so that you can present Safety on Wheels and you can come pick up our trailer and offer a bike rodeo. Our bike trailer has, like I said, our small fleet of bikes in different sizes. We have 24-inch, 20-inch, and 18-inch bikes. We also have bike rodeo supplies and we have cones. We have loaner helmets for those kids that don't have one. We have some maintenance tools. So if kids bring their own bike to the bike rodeo, we can do small minor fixes like pumping up tires and tightening brakes and things like that. When Optimus does their rodeos, they have the children bring their bikes to school and they use their own bikes. So they have a maintenance station that they actually do as part of the bike rodeo, where they go through a maintenance checklist. Anything that they can fix right on the spot, they will. And then they will give them the maintenance checklist to take home and talk to their parents about any other fixes that need to happen. Because we bring our own bikes for our bike rodeos that we use the trailer for, we don't do a lot of that maintenance stuff. We do talk through it though. So we definitely highlight the fact that bike maintenance is important to make sure that you're safe on your bike. Now bike rodeo requires quite a few adult volunteers to run. So at minimum, I feel like you would want no less than 6 adults helping with a bike rodeo to make sure that it goes smoothly, make sure that we don't have kids, you know, racing off on those bikes and crashing, that we kind of have some crowd control as well. But like I said, with some training and, you know, some proof of insurance and things like that, we can actually set our partners up with those supplies. Now, it is so important that bike rodeos happen. Too often, kids are blamed for those traffic crashes that they're involved with on bikes. And when they crash, predominantly it's because they are acting within their developmental level. First of all, if they can see a car, they assume the car can see them. It's kind of like if a toddler covers their eyes and figures if they can't see you, you can't see them. You know, they're obviously much more advanced than that at this point, but they really don't have a concept of those cars not being able to see them. Their concentration's a little bit narrower than adults. They have a harder time multitasking, and there's a lot of tasks that go along to operating a bicycle. They have a really hard time judging car speed and distance. And of course, anybody that's hung out with an elementary school child knows that they're impulsive. They can be very, very impatient, and they just really have a limited sense of danger. All of these reasons are reasons why bike rodeos are really important. It kind of can give them a little bit of instruction on how to be safer out there. We utilize this guideline, or this guide right here, in order to create our bike rodeos. There's a lot of resources out there though. If you did a Google search on how to run a bike rodeo or any search parameters like that, you're going to come up with just hundreds of different ways to do it, hundreds of different layout maps and things like that. This is the one that we happen to use, but there's lots and lots out there. Predominantly, they involve a level of education on bike safety skills, on signaling, on bike handling, and they usually involve some sort of obstacle course or drills to practice those skills. This is just a list of the supplies that, like this would be all the supplies that we have in our bike trailer. These are the things at minimum that you probably would want to have in order to have successful bike rodeo. And then if I have the space in available, this is typically a layout that we would have for our bike rodeo. So first of all is a helmet fitting station. Even if they're arriving with their own helmet, we're still going to check for fit to make sure that that helmet is on them well. But I also provide in our bike trailer, I know that our Optimus friends travel with loaner helmets, so we make sure that every child is wearing a helmet. You know, and sometimes we get a little bit of pushback. Well, I don't ride with a helmet at home. It's like, well, today we're at school or today we're doing this, so we are going to wear a helmet. And we normalize it. We make sure that that's something that is just, that's what we do. Our bike inspection station, like I said, with ours, since we're bringing our own bikes, we don't spend a lot of time on that. So we may skip that station right there. And then a little waiting area once we get a kid fitted to a bike, if they're borrowing ours, or they've finished the bike inspection before they enter the course, there's a little waiting area. And then our course is we practice starts and stops very first. Then we practice kind of that slalom around the cones. We're practicing signaling. We're practicing that bike handling. The next one, they're going to do their arm signals. And then we have that cool figure eight that they do at the very end. So this is a very basic course. It takes, a good sized piece of like a playground or a parking lot or whatever space you have available. And there's measurements in the guide, obviously. I did note a few of them, like these cones would need to be about 8 feet apart. We have a rolling measurement wheel that we use to measure out those things. We use large cones as well as small cones. We have spray chalk that we use. We have sidewalk chalk. And then there's occasionally been times when we've had to do bike rodeo indoors, and so we bring masking tape as well. And these are some of the things that we're covering with them. First of all, one seat means one rider. We want them to know rules of the road. So they have to pretend like they're a car when they're on the road and travel the same direction, obey stop signs. Oftentimes we see that kids aren't necessarily being hit by cars with regard to crosswalks, but running into cars. So letting them know that sometimes they may be crashing into a car rather than the car crashing into them. But above all else, we really highlight for them that car versus kid, whether it's a kid on a bike or a kid walking, the car is going to win every time. So, like I said before, some of our schools have set a minimum age for biking to school. So, third grade is Grand Forks. So we typically do safety on wheels in third grade. Walking or riding in a car to school is vastly different than riding on a bike to school. So those kids really need to know their neighborhood's rules of the road. We strongly recommend that parents take their kids out on that route before they unleash them in the morning and let them ride to school. It's really, really important that they kind of understand that, hey, maybe 7th Street's not a great idea because there's no crosswalks or there's, it's really narrow or whatever. Let's take 6th Street instead, or whatever it happens to be for your own neighborhood. We do talk a little bit about biking at night. That's a particularly important topic, noting that if they're riding their bikes to and from school in the fall and early spring, it's getting dark early and it's staying dark longer in the morning. So they may actually be riding in the dark or in the dusky light conditions. So making sure that they know kind of how to keep themselves safe with reflective gear. The distractions that we see, this is something that we talk to them about quite extensively, not only with bikes, but also as pedestrians. We want them to put down the phones. We want them to remove the earbuds. And they say, well, I'm not looking at it when I'm using my earbuds, but really they need to hear the traffic around them. So we encourage them to definitely remove their earbuds. And then we want them to be able to hear what's going on in their environment around them. Like I said before, with our bike rodeos, we do practice hand-arm signals for turning and stopping. The Minnesota Walk Bike Fun curriculum encourages verbal signaling instead of using arm signals because younger children have a hard time sometimes riding one-handed. So that's just something to kind of note if you're working with younger students. Verbal signaling may be a good choice. We've had a few kids that show up to bike rodeos, either they don't know how to ride, they're afraid to ride, or they didn't bring their bike and it's, we don't have loaner bikes available. We allow them to walk the course. They can even walk the course first and then bike it through if they're nervous about it. So that's something to kind of offer as well. All right, my friends, story time. Carly will remember this, I'm sure. She and I got to kind of be across from each other at the downtown street fair here in Grand Forks. And right behind the school bus that you see in the picture, right behind Carly, was this amazing skateboarding demonstration that they were setting up. They had ramps and jumps and all sorts of great things. And I don't know, Carly, what was it? Maybe 6 or 8 young men that were preparing to do that demonstration. Not a single one had a helmet on. And they were doing some amazing tricks, you guys. They were doing all sorts of jumps and, really, really cool stuff. So me being me and having a van full of helmets, as I usually do in the springtime and the summer, I walked over to them and I offered helmets. I said, I won't charge you if you promise to wear them. And only one young man took me up on it. So I fitted him with a super cool black, matte black multi-sport helmet. Looked great on him, fit him really good. And then Carly and I, as we were packing up, noticed that he had taken that thing off and set it on the curb, and he was skateboarding without it because his friends made fun of him. So my reason for telling that story is that we need more community awareness about this being a situation, about this being a problem. What can we do? What I saw as the problem with this, first of all, is there was going to be a lot of kids watching that demonstration. And that's just reinforcing that whole thing of if I'm really good, I don't need to wear a helmet because I won't fall, which we know is not the case. So those kids watching, they were going to absolutely see these cool skateboarding kids that weren't wearing helmets versus if these cool skateboarding kids were wearing helmets and didn't make a big deal out of it, that's going to normalize helmet use. The other thing I worried about was our city. What is the liability that they're taking on having this presentation happening? And unfortunately, those kids get hurt and they weren't wearing a helmet and our city hadn't required it. So can we require that? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is here. What I do know is that our communities, our community members, I feel like have a very unique opportunity to encourage this kind of helmet use, to encourage seeing this kind of thing happen at demonstrations like this. So again, my reason for sharing this is a kind of putting it out there. Are there ways for us to ask the city to encourage helmet use or require helmet use? And yeah, Carly, we need to make helmets cool again. And I think that kids that are skateboarding out there, they're the coolest of the cool. So who better than those guys to encourage it? I've heard of some communities having kind of, if you guys heard of brand ambassadors, people that promote, and usually it's things like alcohol brands or clubs or things like that. But they're out there like promoting this and they're really cool looking people and they're using the product exclusively and that sort of thing. How cool would it be if we had brand ambassadors for skateboarding helmets and bike helmets, and I've heard of some communities doing that. I don't know how to get that started here, but that's a bigger question for a much smarter group than me, I think. So one of the programs that we have had in the past in Grand Forks is something called Taking It to the Streets. Now, we do Safety on Wheels for the third graders. We wanted something for older kids to reinforce helmet use, but also to teach road skills. So the goal was to highlight our Greenway trail system. Grand Forks and East Grand Forks has a super awesome trail system. So that was kind of the main goal. And they chose 5th grade because that's the last year of elementary school. At that point, students' writing skills will have improved a lot. And they happen to hit on a super enthusiastic principal and some teachers willing to kind of alter their schedules at Kelly Elementary School. So they did this as a partnership with police, the bike shop, the UND cycling team. Carly just mentioned having UND athletes as some of our cool ambassadors for wearing helmets. That's exactly what they did. They had these cool UND students, because if you live in Grand Forks, who's cooler than UND students, right? So we have some good relationships with these groups already. And the students at Kelly Elementary were super excited to see these real bike riders, these people from the bike shops, these people from, again, UND coming out. So the program On day one, they had a presentation to the students covering safety, covering health, environmental benefits to bike riding, reviewing that helmet use, talking about rules of the road. And they also really highlighted the differences between riding on a trail versus riding on the road, which I think is a really important distinction. The second day had a actual bike ride. So those groups of adults took student groups of 10 and did their rides. So it was all inclusive. So if there were students with special needs, they had some adaptive bicycle equipment and paraeducators on the rides. They had some support vehicles available in case folks weren't able to finish the ride. They were able to get a ride back. Here's some photos from the event, which I think are just amazing. Having law enforcement officers out there riding with kids, having obviously those athletes out there riding with the kids, and every single one of them wearing a helmet. So there were some challenges with this program. First of all, the spring is a really busy time in the schools, especially later spring when we've got good weather. They're trying to cram a lot of stuff in, so that was a challenge. Obviously, the school would have to buy into this program, which means that the PE teachers, the classroom teachers, they would have to kind of alter their schedule to make sure that this happened. And, you know, it's right after the melt, so sometimes the spring flooding kind of closes down some parts of the greenway. So that was one of the challenges. I think they had to reschedule because of that. So there are challenges, but this curriculum is available. And I mean, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of buy-in, and it takes a lot of kind of planning. But this is something that can be done in any of our communities at any of our schools. So that's something that is available that any of you can encourage and do. This curriculum, I just wanted to highlight it. It is created for Minnesota schools, so it actually does have ties to the Minnesota school curriculum. However, it is modular. It highlights walking safety. But they can be standalone lessons. It highlights biking safety. It's got all of these great things that it really highlights, and it covers various different age levels as well. It is well worth a look. So if you are not at all familiar with Walk Bike Fun and you want to take a look at that, it's a really wonderful program. I'm going to drop the URL for it in maybe I will. It's not letting me highlight it. I'll give it to Carly and I'll have her send it out to you so that you can look at that. Because yeah, it's not letting me highlight that. I was going to do that. So Safe Routes to School, I mentioned that before, that I have some Safe Routes to School grants that are operating out of some of my Minnesota schools. Safe Routes to School was established nationwide August of 2005, and it's intended for kids K through 8. This is where our Safe Routes to School maps in the greater Grand Forks area have come from. They were developed with Safe Routes to School funds. We don't have a hugely active Safe Routes to School programming statewide for North Dakota. Hopefully that's going to change. We do have a lot of really active funding in Minnesota, and we've been super fortunate to be trusted with a lot of those funds to do a lot of really cool programming. But that said, those maps are available there. You see the link on the screen there. The maps are fantastic, and they really are kind of usable in whatever way you need to. You can download them. They're PowerPoints when you download them, and then you can kind of, what I've been using them for our winter walk to school day events, I've been highlighting the routes the schools will take from their drop-off zones. There's lots of ways that these maps can be used. So please utilize that resource if you're here in the greater Grand Forks area. We do some encouragement programs. We love to see kids walking and biking. So we make a huge deal out of walk to school days and bike to school day. our winter walk to school day is this year in North Dakota, we're celebrating on February 6th and 8th. In Minnesota, we're celebrating February 7th. Bike to school day is going to be May 8th. So with those, we have some incentives for bike to school day. I usually advertise that there's going to be special prize drawings for kids that show up in their helmets. So when we advertise, I'll advertise for that. Last year, I got to give out some gift cards for the movies for the kids that were wearing their helmets. I did a drawing for that at each of the schools that participated. The other thing that we do, and this is a partnership with law enforcement, is our Conehead and I Got Caught programs. Law enforcement officers get a stack of these cards, and when they see a child that's wearing their helmet, they get a free ice cream. I highlight this every single time I visit a school when I'm talking about helmets, because who doesn't love ice cream? So if we're not encouraging them just for pure safety, the promise of an ice cream cone is a pretty good draw. We have offered in the past other little certificates that the law enforcement officers can hand out. Say they see, 3 kids, only one is wearing a helmet. They can hand these to the other 2 kids saying, call Safe Kids, you'll get a discounted helmet. We've never gotten any of those back when they've been handing them out. So I'm going to try again. But that hasn't been as successful as I would like to see it be. This is fantastic. You see here our I Got Caught ones. They're a partnership with AAA, which is a fantastic partner for us. Vision Zero and DQ. The other ones are Conehead. That's with our local McDonald's stores. So they have been super, super generous, both DQ and McDonald's, to offer those. We've had some other local community ice cream places that have offered the same thing. So if you're in a small town, I think Foston is one of them, that one of their local drive-ins, they offer coupons to their law enforcement. I'm trying to think of other ones. Larimore is one of them. Larimore offers it with one of their local places. Northwood. So Northwood. Karma's telling me from the other side of the room, the other places. So if your community does not do one of these and you want help maybe with a template or, a script of how to ask them, please message me, let me know, and we'd be happy to help you get that program going in your community. I think it's huge. Not only does it kind of encourage the law enforcement officers to look for kids doing something right, it gives even more incentive for kids to first of all, to talk to law enforcement and have a positive interaction with law enforcement. And then 100%, they're wearing a helmet, they get some ice cream. It's summertime, you can't beat that. So thank you for putting that link on there, Carly. I really appreciate it. All right, so our programming is ever evolving. Like I said, I'm developing this program in a box situation with scripts for the classroom presentations, with kits that have all of the visual materials that you're going to need. This is stuff that I hope to be able to check out to you guys as early as this spring. So if you contact me, I'll put it together and make sure that we can do that. So if you've got a school that is not getting this education yet and you want to spearhead that, I'm there for you. Like I said, our coverage area is huge, and we try to get out to as many of those communities as we can. But we can only go so far. I'm the only one in the office that's dedicated to pedestrian and wheeled sports. Obviously, all of my coworkers are very, very capable of doing it, but they've got their own stuff that they're doing. So if I can gain more community partners that are passionate about this, that's so what I want to do. But I mean, our programming evolves with new partners. It evolves with new research, and so we're always looking for new opportunities. We are part of All True, so All True Alliance provides some of our funding. A big partner for us is also City of Grand Forks, and so we really do get a lot of support from those folks. Partners with Optimist, obviously, Carly and Brain Injury Network. Those are huge partners for us. AAA and that sort of thing. So We're looking for new partners. We really, really want to get this education out. And we know that in some of our small communities, it's hard to get programming like this out there. So if you're at all passionate about it, you don't have to take it on all on your own. I'm here to support you. um, like I said before, we are throughout North Dakota. So this is our other three uh, Safe Kids coalitions, and that's their contact information. So if you're further away than the greater Grand Forks area, this is who you can contact in those areas. They are headed up by phenomenal people. I know that in Minot, she is super passionate about wheeled sports as well. So that would be a fantastic partnership to have if you're out in the Minot area. But please look them up if you want to. This is our contact information. So my phone number and email there, but I also put down Karma Hansen's contact information. She's our program coordinator. She's been with Safe Kids Grand Forks for almost since it started, almost, not quite. So she knows all of these programs inside and out because she's helped to develop almost all of them. So if you have questions, please give us a holler, email us. You see that cell phone number right there. Karma popped back on. You see that cell phone number right there. That's our Safe Kids cell phone, but it goes directly to Karma. So if you're having a hard time getting a hold of me, call her or text her. Is there anything to add, Karma, that I forgot?
No, you know, the fabulous job, and we're gonna certainly open it up to questions now, and I jumped on just in case.
You're muted, so nobody can hear you.
Oh, yes. No, I have nothing else to add. Tina did a fabulous job. Thank you to Carly. I guess I just want to reiterate, we have just such an amazing relationship with the North Dakota Brain Injury Network. And certainly they deal with clients and patients following those brain injuries. We're on the prevention side, but Carly and the Brain Injury Network is also doing a lot of work on the prevention side, because there's nothing more that she would like than to never have to deal with the backside of that brain injury again, right? And so she has partnered with us, whether it be conferences, presenting in the schools, spreading our messaging and stuff like that. And so we just really thankful for that partnership. And again, you know, Tina presented here in the northeast corner of North Dakota. And I don't know where all of you are from, but just want to extend an offer that besides the other coalitions that are in the state, we do a lot of work throughout the state. And if there's any way that, you know, you say, gosh, I'd love to try something that Tina talked about, or this is a really cool thing, or I want to learn more about this. Technology is pretty cool in that we can put together a Zoom meeting or bring together people from your community. Maybe it's a church or a Boy Scout or Girl Scout club, or, you know, a group of passionate survivors, or whatever that may be, to help guide you through how to do this. And I always say, you know, we're all in this together. It doesn't matter whose name or logo is at the top of things. If we can prevent an injury from happening or a death from happening, let's share. Let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's say, take what we've used, modify it for your needs, and let's see what we can do together to help prevent these types of injuries that we know can be incredibly, incredibly tragic. As a nurse myself, I've seen a lot of brain injuries over the year, and gosh, just really tough things. So let's see what we can do on the prevention side of it.
Yeah, and you guys truly are an asset to help you get things started in other communities. So I go out to Dickinson, and actually going out there, and you're coming up here soon at the end of February, and bring a lot of the Safe Kids Grand Forks supplies with, and we just mail it back, you know. So it's a perfect situation, and it works well. So out there, what I do is the health medical careers teacher in Dickinson, the high school teacher, has me come and present about my role at the Brain Injury Network, but then we also do safety on wheels with those high school students, and then they turn around and teach it to elementary students. So that's a cool spin on it, and they've turned it into, they have kind of some really neat centers that they have that are brain related when they go out to the third graders, but they've done helmet safety and brain things, and it's just been a really cool collaboration to see. And now that ND Bin is expanding and bringing more staff members on too, we get to kind of see more of, you know, the Bismarck Coalition and the Fargo Coalition, and we're excited about helping out more. But yeah, any other communities, especially more you rural communities, if you want help getting some of this set up, Safe Kids and Andy Bin both would love to collaborate.
Yeah, and to that point, you know, Tina talked about how we can order helmets at a reduced price. You know, maybe you don't have the funding to upfront that cost. We'll upfront the cost for you until you can go out and sell them and get the money back. We don't make any money on those helmets. We sell them at our cost, but you know, we're able to do that. We can drop ship it to you. We can courier things to you. We can use our ability to get those discounts and get them to you. You know, if you say, gosh, we'd love to present Safety on Wheels in the school. If you want us to get online and record and do a video of Tina teaching the class in the interactive way in which she does it, we can set something like that up. We can train the trainers. You know, we just have lots of ways in which we can make things happen. So don't be afraid to ask. You know, I think of how many, a lot of the rural communities have things like a farm camp. This would make a great station for a farm camp. A Girl Scout group, we've done a lot of education with them to earn patches or badges for girls or Boy Scouts. So think outside the box. Maybe you've got ideas of things that we haven't done, and we'd love to hear that. But our goal obviously is let's see what we can do to reduce those brain injuries and really focus on that prevention side of things through a whole myriad of different programs that we do.
Thank you, ladies. Anybody have any questions for Tina or Karma before we say goodbye?
Well,
Thank you.
thank you for sharing your afternoon with me. I saw somebody. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Sheena. Please contact me or Karma, or you know, if you didn't write down our number, Carly knows how to get a hold of us.
Yeah.
Because we do want to get this stuff out into the communities that we haven't been able to touch yet. So definitely hit us up.
Okay, sounds great. You were so thorough. That's why they have no questions.
I hope so.
You were. No, that was great. You did an awesome job. Awesome. Thank you so much, ladies. I'm going to stop recording and we'll say goodbye.